The Mont Blanc pen freezes in my hand mid-signature, ink bleeding into the acquisition contract like a wound. Through my office phone, Nadine from Velvet Knot Weddings clears her throat with the careful hesitation of someone forced to deliver devastating news. "I'm sorry, Miss Wade, but your family has asked that we remove you from the guest list." My eyes drift toward the Seattle skyline beyond my office window, a sweeping view that usually reminds me of how far I've risen. 48 floors above the ground, I overlook a city where my company now controls 18 premier venues. Below, streams of headlights trace the streets like lifeblood moving through arteries, everyone advancing with certainty, while I remain suspended in stunned disbelief. "There must be some mistake," I say, my voice composed despite the tremor spreading through my fingertips. "I contributed $60,000 to my sister's wedding." "Yes, well," Nadine hesitates. "I was informed those funds were treated as a gift, freely given with no expectations attached." The contract lying before me, a $7 million hotel acquisition that would extend Wade Collective into our fifth state, suddenly feels insignificant compared to this betrayal, delivered on what should have been a moment of professional triumph. "The money has already been distributed to vendors," Nadine continues, tension tightening her voice. "Your parents were quite clear this had been discussed with you." Another blot of ink spreads across the page as my grip tightens. 6 months ago, I had quietly transferred the money after overhearing Celeste worrying about expenses during Sunday dinner. "We may have to scale things back," she had whispered to our mother in the kitchen. I had pretended not to notice, returning to the dining room where my father was enthusiastically congratulating my future brother-in-law on his promotion to regional sales manager. "Now that's a real career," Dad had said, lifting his glass in approval. When the conversation shifted to my recent purchase of 3 vineyard venues, he had chuckled lightly. "Eleanor's still playing event planner, but at least she enjoys herself." I didn't correct him. I didn't mention the 8-figure revenue or our expansion into 4 states. Instead, the next morning I wrote the check, telling myself that success would eventually speak louder than words. "Please email me a detailed breakdown of how my contribution was used," I tell Nadine now, my voice cooling to the detached tone I reserve for difficult negotiations. "Miss Wade, I'm sure your parents—" The email, Nadine, itemized expenditures, today. Her nervous swallow carries through the line. "Your parents assured me this was all discussed with you. I don't want to be caught in the middle of a family matter." "This isn't about family," I reply evenly. "It's about business." The trembling in my hands subsides as I pull up my company's vendor database on my second monitor, fingers moving with deliberate purpose. "You'll receive the breakdown within the hour," she says quickly. "Of course, Miss Wade." The moment the call ends, I press the intercom. "Amber, connect me with Jessica and legal, please." Not my parents, not Celeste, not the emotional confrontation they would expect. The Wade family taught me one lesson exceptionally well. Power speaks louder than feeling. I rise and walk to the window, pressing my palm against the cool glass. For a brief instant, my reflection reveals what I work so hard to conceal in boardrooms. The younger sister still searching for approval. The daughter whose accomplishments are minimized. The outsider peering into her own family circle. A tear threatens, but I blink it away before it can fall. 20 minutes to compose myself before Jessica arrives. 20 minutes to accept that my only sister's wedding may become the final battleground in a conflict I never chose. The Seattle skyline blurs before I force my focus back to the buildings my company now owns, the venues where other families celebrate milestones, the empire I constructed while my own continued to overlook me. I square my shoulders and return to my desk. The contract waits for my signature. Expansion, growth, success. Everything that has never been enough to make them see me. But perhaps now they will have no choice. The Velvet Knot email arrives in my inbox with the cold politeness of a surgical blade. I sit at my desk, fingers hovering above the keyboard, pulse racing as I read each line. As per our conversation with Richard and Diana Wade, we're pleased to confirm their generous gift covering all primary vendor expenses for Celeste's wedding. My hand presses against my chest as if to restrain the realization forming there. Their generous gift, not mine. I grip the edge of my desk for balance. 3 clicks into our vendor management system confirm what stings even more than the uninvitation. Every single vendor for Celeste's wedding appears on my network chart. Florence Floral, Westlake Catering, Taylor Photography, all subsidiaries or partner companies of Wade Collective. My phone vibrates with a notification. A group text appears between my parents, Celeste, and her fiancé discussing wedding details from 3 weeks ago, a thread I was never included despite financing the entire event. Not oversight, but deliberate exclusion. "I've arranged the ice sculpture delivery for 4 p.m., my mother had written. My father replied, "The Wade family knows how to celebrate properly." "Indeed we do." 30 minutes later, Jessica and Martin enter my executive conference room, their expressions professionally neutral as they take their seats. I stand at the head of the table, spine straight, legal contracts projected behind me. The agreements are ironclad, Jessica explains, adjusting her glasses. All vendors may withdraw services with 21 days' notice, no penalties. Martin clears his throat. There's something else you should know. He slides a folder across the polished surface. Velvet Knot Weddings became a Wade Collective acquisition last month. The paperwork was finalized yesterday. And the venue, I ask, though I already know. Willow Creek Estate is registered under Pinnacle Holdings, Martin continues, one of our subsidiaries. I finish his sentence, cold clarity settling over me. My family chose to celebrate at a venue I own without realizing it. Jessica's eyes narrow with concern. Eleanor, we should consider the potential consequences if we proceed. Your family may have legal recourse. Against me, their uninvited daughter? The laugh that escapes me sounds unfamiliar even to my own ears. Please explain precisely what my family stands to lose. Martin taps his tablet, projecting a spreadsheet onto the wall. Venue, catering, florals, photography, videography, coordination services. He lists them methodically. All deposits would be forfeited according to contractual terms. And the timeline? 20 days until the wedding, Jessica confirms. If we initiate withdrawal today, they'll have almost no time to secure replacements at this level. I think of Celeste's excitement when she discovered the cascading wisteria at Willow Creek, her tearful call describing the perfect rose gold sunset for photographs, dreams I helped bring to life while being systematically erased from the celebration. Martin shifts uneasily. There's also a business concern. If this becomes public, it could affect our Portland expansion. Venue magnate sabotages sister's wedding isn't the headline you want before city council approvals. I turn toward the window, Seattle sprawling below me. The empire I built piece by piece while my family continued to see a little girl playing dress-up. My reflection stares back, composed, certain. Begin coordinated service withdrawals, I say steadily, effective immediately. Jessica and Martin exchange a glance, but nod. They recognize a final decision when they hear one. My office phone rings as soon as they leave. Nadine from Velvet Knot, her earlier composure replaced by panic. Ms. Wade, there must be some mistake. All the vendors are sending termination notices. No mistake, I interrupt. The contracts are being executed according to their terms. But your sister's wedding requires my presence, apparently, just not my money. I end the call and sink into my chair. As vendors begin issuing cancellation notices to my family, I wonder if professional success was worth the cost of family connection. Should I stand firm and let them face the consequences, or attempt to preserve both the wedding and my dignity? What do you do when those who should value you most repeatedly fail to see your worth? The answer waits in the storm of their impending realization. They have never truly seen me. Perhaps now they will have no choice. The following morning, my phone vibrates against my desk for the 7th time in 2 hours. Dad's name flashes again, his 5th call since breakfast. I let it ring to voicemail, then press speaker. Eleanor, this has gone far enough. His voice shakes with restrained fury. If these vendors don't reinstate services by noon tomorrow, I'm contacting my attorney. You may think you're clever, but this is criminal interference with contracts. I almost laugh at the irony of him suing his own daughter's company, but the sound dies as another call arrives. Mom this time. Sweetheart, she begins, her voice coated with false concern. How could you ruin your sister's special day? What kind of person does this to family? We raised you better. I end the message midway and stare at the skyline. The morning fog has lifted, revealing a clarity I wish I felt inside. Amber appears in the doorway holding a stack of pink message slips. 3 calls from the Hendersons, friends of your parents, and Mr. Blackwell from the Downtown Business Association is asking about rumors of vendor issues with the Wade wedding. They've been busy, I murmur, accepting the notes. There's more. Amber hands me the Morning Society page from the Seattle Times, folded to highlight a small article. Sources report a mysterious vendor exodus from the upcoming Wade-Pembroke nuptials, leaving Seattle society wondering what calamity has struck one of the season's most anticipated events. I set the paper down carefully, as if it might scorch my fingers. I rescheduled your investor meeting for next week, Amber adds. Jessica thought you might need time to manage this. Thank you. Alone again, I canceled 2 additional meetings, unable to focus as accusations flood my phone. That evening, I sit cross-legged on my living room floor, laptop balanced on my knees, city lights scattered below my penthouse windows like fallen stars. Takeout sits untouched beside me as I watch an old family video from Celeste's 16th birthday. Eleanor planned everything, Mom tells Aunt Judith in the recording, her arm wrapped around Celeste. She's always been good at little parties. Little parties. That same year, I organized a charity gala for 800 guests that raised over $2 million. I pause the video and open my email. 3 years of correspondence reveal how my parents systematically minimized my career to extended family. Eleanor's venue business is doing well, Dad wrote to Uncle Robert last Christmas. Never mentioning that well meant expansion into a 4th state with revenue nearing 9 figures. My phone pings.
Celeste has posted a black and white photo of her engagement ring on Instagram with the caption, "Sometimes the people who should love you most hurt you deepest. Grateful for those who stand by me while selfish people destroy others' happiness for personal gain." The comments overflow with sympathy. She never names me, but she doesn't need to. I open a new document and begin recording everything. Every email, every message, every dismissal, every dollar spent on her wedding, every vendor contract. Each piece of evidence forms a timeline of a pattern I allowed for far too long. The next morning, Amber enters my office carrying a brown paper bag releasing the scent of cinnamon and butter. "Your favorite from Meredith's Bakery," she says, placing a warm morning bun on my desk. "You look exhausted." "I haven't slept," I admit, accepting it gratefully. Amber leans against my desk, her expression softening. For what it's worth, I would have uninvited them from my wedding years ago. The comment catches me mid-bite and I nearly laugh. The first genuine sound in days. Amber joins in, and for a moment the weight lifts. The lightness vanishes 30 minutes later when my father's voice booms from reception. My family has arrived unannounced, their voices echoing down the hallway as Amber unsuccessfully enforces my closed-door policy. "She can't hide from us forever," Dad declares, his footsteps approaching. My office door swings open. Dad enters first, followed by Mom and a rigid, silent Celeste. Sunlight floods through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the tableau of family discord. "What do you think you're doing?" Dad demands, face flushed. I lean back calmly, hands folded. "Exactly what you taught me, protecting my investments." Mom waves a dismissive hand. "It's just a wedding invitation, Eleanor. Why create such drama? We assumed you'd be too busy with your project to attend anyway." Project. I savor the word before reaching for my phone. "Let me show you my project." I display the group text they created for wedding planning, the one I was excluded from, projecting it onto the wall screen. Message after message appears. Seating charts, floral arrangements, menu decisions. Mom sharing the credit card receipt for the venue deposit. "Just put it on our card. We can use Eleanor's money, but say it's from all of us." Dad's reply. "She'll never know the difference. She's too wrapped up in her little business ventures." Color drains from their faces as their words fill the wall behind me. "Did you think I wouldn't discover this?" I ask quietly. "Or did you simply not care?" Celeste sinks into a chair, staring at the messages as if seeing them for the first time. Mom opens her mouth, closes it, then tries again. "We were just trying to simplify things," she says weakly. But something has shifted, in the room and within me. Seeing their stunned expressions, I realize I've spent years chasing approval from people incapable of giving it. I've built something they can no longer dismiss. I don't need their validation to command respect. The door opens again as Jessica and Martin enter, arms filled with folders. Jessica nods politely to my family before placing a slim portfolio on my desk. "The solution you requested," she says, revealing a detailed proposal. Martin steps forward with a tablet displaying photographs of Laurel House, one of my smaller estates. Everything can be arranged within the original timeframe. Replacement vendors have confirmed availability. Dad watches, confusion replacing anger. "You have a team," he says, as if realizing for the first time that I built more than a hobby. "A remarkable one," I reply, standing taller. "They've prepared an alternative that preserves the wedding while protecting my dignity, something you never considered." My executive team presents the solution with precision, offering what my family never has. Solutions instead of demands, respect instead of dismissal. In their presence, my voice strengthens, my posture straightens. When they finish, I open my desk drawer and remove a folder bearing the Wade Collective logo. A portfolio prepared overnight outlining my terms. The Laurel House, 1 day only, basic services included. I slide the document toward them. My alternative offer. As my family studies the proposal, my phone vibrates with a message from Celeste. I glance up at her standing across from me, phone in hand, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity I haven't seen since childhood. "I need to speak with you," the message reads, alone. I nod, and she leaves with our parents.
2 days later, wind sweeps across Crescent Bay Lodge's terrace, carrying salt and the sharp taste of victory. I chose this cliffside venue deliberately, my crown jewel property, its panoramic ocean views and understated luxury generating 7 figures annually, the perfect setting for calculated confrontation. Celeste arrives 15 minutes early, her sedan pulling into the circular drive where Martin waits to escort her. Through the expansive windows, I watch her expression shift from confusion to awe as she takes in the sweeping architecture, the structure appearing to rise organically from the cliff itself. "Eleanor." Celeste steps onto the terrace, her silk scarf fluttering in the ocean breeze. Her eyes widen as she takes in the infinity pool seeming to spill into the Pacific. "This is yours? Welcome to Crescent Bay." I gesture to the leather portfolio on the glass table. "Please sit." 2. The ocean crashes rhythmically below us, providing a soundtrack to what must be done. I open the portfolio without preamble, presenting the first document. "This is the confirmation from Velvet Knot removing me from your guest list." I slide it across the table, followed by a bank statement. This shows my $60,000 contribution, which according to Nadine was represented as a gift with no expectations. Celeste's fingers tremble slightly as she reviews each page. I continue methodically, laying out vendor contracts, cancellation notices, and the email thread with Nadine. Each of these vendors has withdrawn services as of yesterday. The venue is no longer available. Catering, flowers, photography, all canceled. My voice remains steady, factual. Color drains from Celeste's face as comprehension dawns. Mom and Dad said you were too busy to come, that you had meetings in Portland that weekend. I own the venue, Celeste. I own most of the vendors. Did you really think I wouldn't discover I'd been uninvited from a wedding I largely funded? Understanding breaks across her features like a wave. How much of this wedding industry do you actually control? Before I can answer, the terrace door bangs open. My parents storm through, Father's face flushed above his golf shirt. What do you think you're doing? He strides towards us, Mother following in his wake. Celeste, we've been calling you for hours. I'm showing my sister the truth. I rise slowly, reaching for the remote on the table. Since you've spent years hiding it from her. Father waves dismissively. This childish tantrum over a wedding invitation. This isn't about an invitation. The wall behind me illuminates as the hidden screen activates. This is about respect. The Wade Collective organizational chart appears. 18 premier venues across 5 states, hospitality holdings, vendor networks, and revenue projections. Father's mouth opens, then closes. Eleanor's just playing at business, he attempts, turning to Celeste. Got lucky with a few properties that... 412 employees, I advance the slide. 18 venues, 8 hotels. Annual revenue of $37 million. This isn't luck, Dad. This is what you refuse to see. Mother steps forward. Darling, we always knew you were doing well with your little company, but my little company is worth more than Dad's ever was. The words land like stones in still water. The invitation wasn't the insult. The insult was spending my money while pretending I didn't matter. Celeste stands suddenly. I need you both to leave. Celeste, Mother begins. Now. My sister's voice carries an unfamiliar edge. I need to speak with Eleanor alone. The silence after they exit feels like the eye of a hurricane, temporary, charged with potential energy. Celeste turns to me, tears brightening her eyes. I didn't know. Any of it. That was the point. I closed the portfolio. They made sure you didn't. The terrace door opens again, but this time it's Jessica and Martin who enter, each carrying leather-bound presentations. Jessica nods professionally at Celeste. Miss Wade, we've prepared the contracts for the Laurel House. She places her portfolio on the table. It's available for your original date. Every mall's Alex, not Capper's. Martin adds his documentation beside hers. We've assembled a complete vendor portfolio, ready to execute with 21 days' notice. Everything from your original plan has been replicated, with adjustments for the new location. Celeste watches them with growing comprehension. Miss Wade, she repeats softly, noticing how they address me with deference, not the dismissive tone our parents always used. Thank you, Jessica Martin. I gesture towards the chairs. Please, walk Celeste through the options. As they outline the new wedding plan with calm efficiency, I notice the shift in my sister's posture, straightening, leaning forward with intent focus. For the first time, she's seeing me not as her overlooked sister, but as the businesswoman our parents never acknowledged. My phone vibrates with incoming calls an hour later. Mother, father, mother again. The tone of their voicemails has shifted from demanding to pleading over the past hours. Their society friends have started asking questions about problems with the wedding. Father's business associates, previously unaware of my success, are expressing surprise at learning about Eleanor Wade's business empire. Is this real? Celeste asks when Jessica finishes, gesturing to the alternative wedding plans. You'd do this after everything? The Laurel House is yours if you want it. Martin will coordinate everything. I meet her eyes directly, but we need to discuss terms. The family meeting is scheduled tomorrow at my headquarters. As Celeste looks at me with new understanding, I wonder, should I simply reinstate the original wedding plans to spare her pain, or stand firm on my terms to finally establish boundaries with my family? Sometimes mercy feels like weakness, but sometimes strength requires forgiveness. The ocean crashes below us, constant and uncompromising, like the truth. Eleanor, Celeste says finally, I'd like to see the Laurel House. I nod to Martin, who begins gathering the contracts. This isn't victory yet, just the first acknowledgement of a battlefield that has existed for years. My phone vibrates again. Another parent calling to plead rather than demand. The balance is shifting, but the war isn't over. It has only just begun. The next day, at headquarters, the family attorney's briefcase snaps open with military precision, on my conference table. My father settles into the chair directly across from me, checking his Rolex for the 3rd time in 5 minutes, a nervous tic I've observed since childhood, whenever he feels control slipping away. Mother arranges herself beside him,
her forced smile as brittle as the pearls around her neck. "We've drafted a reasonable compromise," Father says, sliding a document across the polished surface. I don't touch the paper. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind them, Seattle skyline forms a glittering backdrop that seems to underscore the distance between us. Them still seeing the daughter who needs their approval. Me seeing clearly for perhaps the first time. "A compromise suggests equal standing," I say, my voice steady. "There's nothing equal about spending $60,000 of my money while excluding me from the event." Mother leans forward, her perfume the same scent she's worn since I was a child, suddenly cloying. "Think about what people will say, Eleanor, the family reputation is apparently worth exactly $60,000, I finish for her, plus tax. My father's jaw tightens. "You've made your point with this little business demonstration. Now it's time to be reasonable." The word little hangs between us, the same diminutive he's attached to every achievement I've ever presented. Little business, little hobby, little Eleanor playing at success. I press a button on my phone. "Amber, please bring in the portfolio." While we wait, neither parent apologizes.
Neither acknowledges the fundamental wrong of their actions. They simply expect compliance, as they always have. My assistant enters with a leather-bound portfolio, placing it before me with the precision of someone who understands exactly what this moment represents. I open it to the first page of financial statement. Wade Collective grossed $83 million last year. I say, turning the portfolio toward them, "That's approximately 7 times what your company ever made in its best year, Dad." His eyes widen, disbelief warring with dawning comprehension. I flip to the next page, a Wall Street Journal profile. I deliberately minimized our family connection in every interview, not because I was ashamed of you, but because I thought it might hurt your pride to be known as Eleanor Wade's parents rather than the other way around. Another page, property holdings. Another, organizational chart. With each turn, their expressions shift from confusion to shock. "I don't need your permission to be successful," I say quietly. "I need your respect to be family." The conference room door opens. Celeste steps in, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute. Martin stands beside her, his presence a silent confirmation that he's shown her everything, the true extent of my contribution, the systematic dismissal, the empire I've built while they weren't looking. "My terms are non-negotiable," I continue, closing the portfolio. "The Laurel House, 80 guests maximum, $185,000, paid up front." "That's outrageous," Father sputters. "That's market rate," I correct him. "Actually, it's a family discount." Celeste moves to stand beside me, not them. The shift is small but seismic. "I'd like a tour," she says softly, "of everything." 30 minutes later, we stand in the main ballroom of my flagship venue. Crystal chandeliers reflect light across marble floors that cost more than my father's first house. Staff members approach with questions, each deferring to me with a respect my family has never witnessed. "Ms. Wade, the Morrison wedding needs approval on the custom lighting installation." "Ms. Wade, Chicago called about accelerating the acquisition timeline." "Ms. Wade, your investment team is waiting in the North Conference Room whenever you're ready." With each interaction, my father grows quieter, his shoulders gradually losing their rigid certainty. Mother wanders toward a display case, featuring awards and press clippings, her fingers trailing over glass that protects evidence of a success she never bothered to acknowledge. When we reach my office, Mother notices it immediately, the only personal item in a space otherwise dedicated to business. A family photo from Celeste's graduation, all 4 of us smiling, my arm around my sister's shoulders. "You kept this here?" she asks, voice uncharacteristically small. "Some things matter more than others," I answer simply. Celeste steps forward, taking my hands in hers. "I want you to be my maid of honor," she says, "not just a guest, if you'll still consider it." The request catches me off guard, warmth blooming in my chest despite all my careful defenses. "I'd be honored," I say, then add the boundary I should have established years ago. "But only if it's because you want me there." "I always did," she whispers. "I just didn't know about any of this, about what they did." My father stands by the window, looking out at the city, but seeing something else entirely. When he turns, something has shifted in his expression, the beginnings of recognition I've waited decades to receive. "We saw what we wanted to see," he says finally, the admission falling from him like a weight. "We never really looked." In my outer office, Mother silently writes a check for the Laurel House, her hand trembling slightly. No complaints about the cost, no further attempts at manipulation. The power has shifted, not because I demanded it, but because reality finally broke through their carefully constructed narrative. Celeste embraces me, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know," she repeats against my shoulder. "I should have known." Over her shoulder, I catch Martin's eye, and not once. "Make it perfect," I instruct him. Despite everything, because that's what family does.
Even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, they find a way forward, not by forgetting, but by finally seeing clearly. On the wedding day, the morning sun streams through the Laurel House's glass atrium as I direct my team with hand signals they've learned to read like second nature. White roses cascade from hanging installations, transforming the space into a botanical cathedral. My venue, one of many in my portfolio, has never looked more immaculate. "Miss Wade, the champagne delivery is here," my events director says, tablet in hand. "Thank you, Colin. Have them use the service entrance and begin immediate chilling." My voice carries the quiet authority I've spent years cultivating. I catch sight of my parents entering the grand foyer, their posture different now, tentative, almost deferential. Dad nods at me from across the room, instead of offering the dismissive pat on the shoulder I'd grown accustomed to at family gatherings. "Eleanor," Mom approaches, wearing an expression I rarely see directed at me, a mixture of pride tinged with regret. "Mom, thank you. Let me introduce you to my executive team." I gesture toward the group of professionals who've stood beside me through everything. "This is Jessica, my chief legal counsel. Martin, operations director. Colin runs all our Pacific Northwest venues." Mom's eyes widen slightly as each person greets her with the same respectful "Mrs. Wade," and knowing looks that speak volumes about where their loyalties lie. Later, crystal flutes reflect prismatic light across white linen as I rise to deliver my toast. The same family members who once talked over me at Sunday dinners now lean forward, attentive. "To Celeste and James," I begin, my voice steady. "Family is complicated. Legacy even more so." I pause, meeting my father's gaze. "You don't build empires out of spite. You build them with vision, then decide who gets to share the view." Applause ripples through the room. Celeste stands, moving to embrace me, microphone still in hand. "Not just my sister," she says, voice thick with emotion, "but my inspiration." Her words hang in the air, vindication I'd stopped believing would ever come. After the toasts, Jessica and Martin find me on the terrace overlooking the sound. The sunset paints the water copper and gold, a perfect backdrop for what feels like my own personal victory. "To flawless execution," Martin says, raising his glass. "And bulletproof contracts," Jessica adds with a wink. I touch my glass to theirs. "You two are more family to me than they've been in years." The admission comes easily now, without the sting it once carried. To boundaries that build bridges, not walls. Months later, Sunday dinner unfolds in my penthouse, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Seattle skyline I conquered one building at a time. My father leans forward at the dining table I selected for its perfect dimensions. "What do you think about expanding into the Southwest?" he asks, his tone genuinely curious. "With your business model, Arizona could be untapped potential." From the living room, I hear my mother's voice. "My daughter, the CEO," she tells her friend, proudly displaying a magazine feature I'm certain she's memorized. My phone buzzes with a text from Celeste. "The wedding photos have gone viral, each venue tagged with my company's name." A second message follows. "You didn't just fund this wedding, you held it together." I see that now. As I welcome my family into my home, on my terms, I wonder if true reconciliation comes from forgiveness or from finally being seen for who you really are. Is it enough that they recognize my success now? Or should genuine family bonds be unconditional from the start? What would you do? Embrace this new relationship or maintain protective boundaries?